this, I was only in Challenger Circuit. I don't, like, claim that I was some top-tier pro or anything. I just hit Challenger Circuit.
3, 2, 1, and boost. Shit, they got one. Shit, they got all of us.
Stop fucking thinking! You take the DPI, you divide it by the
Coach Frosty has built a presence around authority, coaching, credentials, and strong takes on what makes someone legitimate. But when those same credentials are put under a microscope, the story starts to shift, and you start to wonder, is he really who he claims to be, or is there more to the TikTok coach than what's on the surface? Before we get into this, I want to be very clear. Everything you're about to hear is based on information I personally found that's publicly available online, compared directly to claims being made. If any of this is inaccurate, or if there's verifiable proof that supports those claims, like documentation of a college degree or military service, I'm open to reviewing it and correcting or removing this video. This isn't about attacking someone, it's about whether the story being presented actually lines up. Because when you hear the timeline laid out, it sounds like this. Graduates high school in 2012, joins the Navy, becomes a nuclear engineer, retires in 2013, then attends college for applied astrophysics, all within about a year. Yeah. This is someone who's been gaining traction in the Apex community, especially on TikTok, sharing strong opinions about coaching and what qualifies someone to teach others. And look, there's nothing wrong with having opinions, but when you position yourself as an authoritative figure, your background matters. Let's look at what's actually being claimed according to his own bio. Coach Frosty, aka Max, joined the Navy at 18, became a nuclear engineer, retired in 2013, and attended Ball State for applied astrophysics, then became an instructor for the YMCA in 2014. At a glance, it sounds impressive. But once you slow it down, things start to not add up. First, retired from the Navy in 2013. That alone raises questions. Military retirement typically requires long-term service, around 20 years. So using that term after roughly a year doesn't really line up. Now, it gets more specific.
What was your rate in the Navy? Machinist mate nuclear, MMN.
Frosty is also claimed to be an MMN, a machinist mate nuclear in the Navy. That role typically comes with a minimum service commitment of around 6 years because of the level of training involved, which include 4 years of full committed service plus an additional 2 years of the training that it takes to actually become an MMN. So when you put that next to a timeline that suggests leaving within about a year, those two things don't really match. On top of that, in a recent stream, Frosty stated that he retired from the Navy due to autism.
Why did I leave the Navy? Autism.
I'm not going to interpret the statement beyond what was said, but when you combine the timeline, the required service commitment, and the wording being used, it raises more questions than answers. Then, there's the education timeline. Now this part is important because Frosty has publicly stated on Twitter that you shouldn't be a coach in Apex unless you have a degree in education. That's a pretty strong stance. Not just experience, not just results, but specifically a degree in education. But based on what's being presented here, the degree being referenced isn't in education. It's in a completely different field. According to what's being presented, Frosty attended Ball State University and has a background in applied physics and engineering. And to be clear, those are serious fields. Degrees in those areas typically take multiple years of structured coursework, so the timeline matters here. Based on the claims, this would place him at Ball State around 2013 to 2014. But when checking publicly accessible graduation listings for both the winter and spring classes of 2014 on Ball State's website, Frosty's real name doesn't appear in those records. Now to be fair, not everyone graduates on time, and not every academic path is linear, and attending a university is not the same as completing a degree. But when a specific field of study is being presented as part of someone's credentials, it's reasonable to look for confirmation of that, especially when paired with other public statements like the claim that you shouldn't be a pro-level coach without a degree in education. So now you have two things side by side. A claim that coaching at high level requires an education degree, and a background that, at least publicly, doesn't reflect the same standard. And again, I'm not here to tell you what that means, but it's another example where the claims and the reality don't seem to fully line up. And at this point, it stops feeling like one small inconsistency and starts feeling like a pattern. Now, this is where things shift from inconsistencies to something more serious. I'm not going to share full personal details here, but the same individual, who I'll refer to as Max, aka Coach Frosty, appears in publicly available court records tied to a 2017 incident involving impersonation of an officer. To be clear, I'm only referencing what's documented in public records. I'm not adding speculation, and I'm not saying this defines the person. But it is part of the overall picture when evaluating credibility. And based on those same records, this did not result in prison time. Instead, the case appears to have been resolved through probation, along with requirements like apologizing to the officers involved, completing community service, and paying court-related fees. So again, this isn't about exaggerating anything. It's about looking at what's publicly documented, what's being claimed, and how those things line up.
Hey, pop the LDXL.
And when you stack that alongside the timeline issues, the military claims, and the education questions, it continues that same pattern. Details that don't fully align. At the end of the day, this isn't about tearing someone down, it's about consistency. If you're going to position yourself as an authority, especially in something like coaching, your story, your credentials, and your standards, they should all line up. Right now, based on what's publicly available, there are a lot of things that just don't. If there's context or proof that clears any of this up, I'm open to it, but until then, this is what the timeline shows. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. My name is Sayola. Have a good one, Legends.